Welcome to Talking in Common, a podcast of all things lifestyle, family, relationships, well-being, kids and culture. This is not a how-to, but an insight into the lives of ourselves and others and how we all manage to get by. Hosted by myself, Kate Gadinsky, and my co-host, Sophie Panton. Take a listen and let's find out what we all have in common. It's so nice to have you in real life.
How nice is this? What a treat. It's been
I know.
so long.
It has been months, babe.
We're here in person together. Welcome back to another episode, everybody. And how are you feeling, Kate? I'm going to interview you today.
I'm nervous.
I can tell.
I'm nervous because my brain just doesn't seem to be as quite switched on as I would usually call myself.
Yeah.
Would you say I'm a switched on person?
Yeah, usually, but it's been a while since being pregnant and being sleep deprived.
You did say in a more recent episode that we released that I've lost my marbles.
Yeah, that was when you were pregnant. You've probably got your marbles back now, but you just haven't slept. Your eyeballs are hanging out of you. But no, you look great. You got a glow. You've got a postpartum glow, my darling.
Thanks, babe. It's got nothing to do with this natural light that's right in front of my face.
I know we've strategically sat ourselves right in front of the brightest window to get as much glowy skin as possible.
And I feel pretty good today.
Good, great.
Good to be here. Good to be back recording.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to today's episode because we're going to talk about your birth story. You're going to share every gory detail. And I'm just really excited to rehear it.
I know. Well, have you heard? I know you have heard it. Of course you've heard it.
But, you know, it was literally like, I don't know if it was the day of or the next morning.
I remember, I think I was in the hospital when I was telling you.
Yeah, in the hospital, and it was all so firsthand, and like I was so excited and so, you know, just, excited and shocked and happy that I've kind of forgotten all the details. So I'm excited to hear it all again.
I have to say, you're going to think I'm nuts, like saying this only, a few weeks in or within the first couple of months. Because I know this is my last baby, I've had this really overwhelming feeling of I can't believe I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah, but I have to say, I've heard you say this before.
I'm not having a fourth baby, but I think
now.
This did happen to me last time as well. It's because you know what? Last time I did think it was the last time, but this is definitely the last time.
I've literally heard you say this after you gave birth to Lulu, your second. You were like
I
feel really emotional that I'm never going to do it again. And here we are.
I think this is
5 years later.
I know, wow. I think this is all part of like postpartum as well because your hormones and pregnancy, they're so up and down. So you have days where, everything just feels really hard and the day feels really long. But then those days where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm never actually going to give birth ever again.
Oh my gosh, you're feeling like that already?
Don't get me wrong. I couldn't jump back right in it now and give birth. But I think it's like the closing of a chapter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Emotional. Beautiful. Sad. Emotional. Not sad. Beautiful.
I think this is what keeps us, going back for more babies because your brain just does something and you're like, oh, yes, yep, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah, it's our crazy hormones that make us only remember the good things and forget the pain and forget the roller coaster and all the rest of it. But let's start with what we've got in common.
What do we have in common?
We're both tired.
We're both tired.
No, I think it's that we're here together in person and we're down the coast. We're out of the city.
Do you know how good the fresh air is?
Yeah.
Be in some fresh air, not in the congested city.
Yeah. Does it feel good for you actually in your sort of postpartum haze to get out of the city and get some fresh air?
Oh, my God, it feels so good and so nice to be able to have little Otis down here with us and take him for a little walk out in the fresh air. I'm hoping he's going to sleep very well tonight, Otis, if you're listening.
Yeah, and through this episode.
Yes.
I think, you and I definitely, obviously we have that in common today, but also our partners very much love being, so we're really lucky. We have lived within, kilometres of each other, near kilometres of each other most of our lives, which is pretty cool. And not that you live down here, but I do, and we're lucky that we both have places down here. And it just means that we get to, have all these beautiful memories with our kids and,
so nice.
Have that different experience out of the city. And, it's just amazing what some, bit of fresh air and sun and time out does.
I know, we are very lucky to be so close.
Yeah, so lucky. So Shall we start with
We shall start.
with your birth story? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
I'm quite excited because I get to interview you.
I know. You've never, have you? Oh, you have maybe once before.
We've kind of done it to each other a couple of times, depending on, but we haven't done it for a while.
It doesn't feel that long ago that I interviewed you for your birth story around a similar time.
I was feeling quite anxious that day doing that. I think it's got something to do with just how vulnerable you feel in this period of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then also the challenges, little Otis has been sick last week, and I know that's been a really challenging week for you, and just navigating the feeding and just the sleeplessness. You just feel quite...
There's so much going on all at one time. You're so consumed by this tiny, tiny baby in amongst everything else, my 2 other kids, your relationship, your other family members, your friends. There's so much going on, but you're so consumed by this one teeny tiny little being, and they're a lot.
And it's just hard to kind of live your normal day-to-day life, isn't it, and feel normal. You just sort of feel a little bit like you're in a totally different...
A bubble.
Yeah, bubble. The baby bubble.
Baby bubble.
Baby bubble.
Baby bubble.
All right, so let's hear the birth story. We have a few listener questions which, depending on how the story goes, I might ask during, or otherwise we'll get to them at the end. But let's just start with the lead up to the birth. So let's just talk about your last week, your sort of 39th week of pregnancy, and how you were feeling that week leading into it. And let's start there.
So how far was I when he was born? So I think I was 40 and 3 days, or 40 and 2 days.
Oh, yeah, that was me, 40 plus 3, I think, yeah.
Isn't that funny? And we conceived on the same week.
Yeah, and we had little boys.
And the lead up, I think, in the week 2, look, I was convinced that I was going to have this baby much earlier. I've never, ever had a baby past 40 weeks.
Yeah.
Even really past 39 weeks. So I was so convinced, and I was feeling everything for weeks. I had the lightning crutch, the immense pressure, all the cramping, all the backaches, period pain. He was engaged, but he just was not
ready.
Was not ready yet.
He was chilling.
He was definitely chilling. But I think in the lead up, the last week or maybe 2 weeks, I actually started to feel, I'm sure I probably said this to you, but quite paranoid. I think just in that end part, because his movement started to change quite a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was feeling him as much. Maybe I wasn't as in tune with him towards the end, because there was a few days where it was hours and I wouldn't feel a movement.
Yeah.
But then I'd go and have a check and he would be moving around and everything would be completely fine.
Yeah.
So I think those last couple of weeks, and I think because I'd been anticipating it for a little while, for quite a few days, and it wasn't happening, every night then you go to bed feeling a bit anxious, is it going to be tonight? Think about the other kids, what's happening. But no, didn't happen. Didn't happen early. So I got to my due date, and then I think it was a weekend. Was it a weekend?
Yeah, well, it was on your husband's birthday, which was a Monday
or a Monday.
Tuesday.
Sorry, he was born on a Monday. So the weekend before, I did start to have what I felt were quite mild contractions. They were just sort of coming and going. They didn't ever get any closer than maybe 15 minutes apart, but
Oh, okay. So you were aware of them being
I was
quite
feeling.
consistent.
I started on the Sunday. I started to time a little bit, and then it would happen for a couple of hours, and then it would just sort of fizzle out.
Yeah.
So I had an appointment with my obstetrician anyway on the Monday, and I'd said to him, I'm ready, I'm starting to get anxious, I've had enough, I'm uncomfortable, can you break my waters? And he was like, yeah. So
you had a checkup appointment on that
I'd seen him. I think I'd seen him 3 times the week before.
Okay.
So I'd gone in for a normal check, and I'd been feeling a little bit of decreased movement, but everything was fine.
Yeah.
So he told me to come back. Was it once or twice? I can't remember, just to keep monitoring, but everything was fine.
Yeah.
So saw him on the Monday. Fast forward, I'm up in the birthing suite, break my waters, and he was pretty convinced that I would go into natural labour or they would start to be more consistent, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember doing that same thing with Honey, my first.
Yeah.
But I was like negotiating because I really didn't want to have my waters broken. I was like, can't I wait and see what happens? Can I wait? And then nothing happened.
Yeah.
But if you were feeling, so what was the conversation around getting your waters broken stuff? You were just ready? You wanted to do it?
Yeah,
Or
he
was
happy. He was happy for me to keep going for longer if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like there was no pressure at all from my doctor
Yeah.
to get induced or anything. He was, because we did speak about a few different options. Like he'd said to me at one point, you know, how long would you want to go before you know, looked at other options like being induced? And I was pretty stuck on that I wanted to go into labour naturally.
Yeah.
But I think when I kind of got to that point and that week, as I said, leading into it, I started to just really start to do my head in. It just wasn't a nice feeling because it was just this constant worry that something was going to go wrong with the baby.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd sort of thought if I got to that point, like that Monday and nothing had happened, that I would be happy to potentially be induced.
Yeah.
But the conversation we had was, could you break my waters?
Yeah.
See what happens naturally.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point to make because like there's so many different considerations and it is a really like confusing stage of like, you know, if you do want to try and go into spontaneous labour or go into labour naturally, there's all these like conflicting information and all of these sort of pressures that, you know, maybe you allow to feel or not. But if you're not like mentally okay with waiting, then that's not going to help the process anyway. So I think it's like a really good point to make that you had that was what you had allowed yourself.
Yeah, we'd sort of said like, okay, if we get to this point, we had a bit of a point, then we'll look at the other options. But there was no pressure from him. But he was like, you know, on the other side, you're definitely ready, so I'm happy to do whatever you want type thing.
Yeah.
But I should also mention, like, in the 2 weeks in the lead up, I went for 2 induction massages. Yeah. Amazing. One that you gifted me, and it was absolutely heavenly.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Oh, my God.
Did you like being touched during pregnancy? You liked massage and stuff,
I
didn't
loved
you?
massage, and I think that massage that I got, the induction one, I think, as you said to me, she just knew how to massage a pregnant woman's body. Yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I did that. I went for induction acupuncture. I spent hours bouncing on a fit ball.
Yeah.
I did
all the things.
All the things, and still didn't go into natural labour.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it sort of went, well, you'll find out.
Yeah.
Went how I planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your, if you could describe in just like a word or two, like what was your hope for the birth? Like how did you want it to go?
Well, obviously the first thing was at the end of the day, I just wanted the baby to be safe. That was like my top thing, which would be, I'm assuming, for everybody, and free. Like I just wanted to be able to move around, have, you know, the least amount of kind of people around, the least amount of intervention around me, as much as I could without obviously having a home birth, because I love the idea of it and I think it would be incredible, but I just could never do it.
No.
Maybe if I go back for a 4th time. Just kidding.
I love it. Heard it here first.
Free. I should have done a free birth. No, I think, honestly, that's it. And I think from having gone through it twice before that you can have all these ideas of what you want, but, you know, things do happen and it can be out of your control a lot of the time. So I did do like quite a lot of, I guess, prep leading into it, you know, working on lots of different breathing exercises, like visualizations, all that type of stuff, lots of like stretching and different moves or movements that Mackie and I sort of practiced together. You know, things that might potentially help me during the process.
Yeah.
I did do a little bit of, I guess you call it prep work, of things that I thought maybe could help me achieve the outcome that I wanted with my birth.
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely went in with an open mind. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I'd heard, you know, 3rd time labour, they can be quick, but then equally my obstetrician had said they can also be notoriously unpredictable. So, but in my head it was going to be quick.
Yes, I remember you being quite nervous about that.
Yeah.
It was going to be really quick and
I
you
was
didn't want to be
nervous.
too far away.
Well, all my family was away.
Yeah.
And they
tricky.
live quite close.
Yeah.
And you were an hour away. So it was kind of logistically, I think a lot of it was, you know, my two old, Nina and Lulu. Like,
Yeah.
and you have this, I don't know about you, but you have this vision that it's going to happen in the middle of the night.
Yes, yeah.
Because for a lot of people it does
yeah.
often. You know, that's when the oxytocin levels usually get going. It's when your what's it called? Melatonin levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But luckily I didn't have to worry about that. So we were going through all these different plans of like who we would call, what we would do, what if we had to take them.
Yeah. Another major consideration in, you know, second, third or any consecutive birth after you've already had children, like what to do with the other kids.
I know.
What's your plan? Yeah. And it's like you can have a plan, but yeah, exactly. What if it happens in the middle of the night? How far away are your backup people, or how far away are the carers for the kids, all that sort of stuff. Like,
and my previous birth wasn't super quick, maybe, but it wasn't that long either.
Yeah.
So generally my pattern had been that it got quicker. So
yeah,
that was just a consideration.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did think it was going to be quite quick, but you never know. So that's why I kind of wanted to do as much kind of prep as what I could.
Yeah.
To try and kind of have different, you know, my little toolkit,
yeah,
different things to turn to throughout the process.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to ask a listener question now because it is relevant to what we're talking about now. What did you do to prepare yourself this time after already have given birth?
So, well, okay, that is a good question, whoever asked that question, because it's funny how people often go, it's your third baby, like you've got this. Every single baby is different. Every single pregnancy is different. And it had been quite a few years since I had actually gone through the whole birthing process and pregnancy because, as you mentioned, Lulu has just turned 5 and Nina's 7. So it had been quite a few years. We did a little refresher course with this amazing business called She Births, Nadine, who runs She Births. And it was just really great to chat to her about, you know, any fears that I had surrounding birth, anything that had happened in previous births that I, you know, wanted to try and avoid again, or what I loved about my births, or what I would do differently. And then as well as that, you know, she gave us a lot of really good kind of advice and really good tools and all the breathing exercises, the visualizations. She kind of talked to Mackie a lot about different ways that he could, you know, support me throughout that whole process.
Yeah.
And different things to try. So that was really beneficial. I think even if you've done it before, it's good to kind of, you know, you can always learn new things.
Yeah, totally.
You can never know too much.
And things have changed since the last time you gave birth. You know, there's a lot more information now, new studies, like things that maybe they used to advise might be different now.
Yeah.
And like we were just talking about before we started recording, you absolutely forget. Like,
oh my God.
You particularly forget the hard parts. Yeah,
Pain.
yeah, the pain and the difficulties and the challenges for sure. You just remember like it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was
because
the
that
best
end
day.
bit when you meet your baby. But I one thing I actually probably should have said earlier that I didn't realise right until towards the end, I think, of my pregnancy was I didn't actually realise that I was maybe a little bit not traumatised by Lulu's birth, because I have really great feelings also when I think about her birth, but equally she got stuck. And obviously she had to be turned, and anyway, I ended up getting her out. They got her out with the vacuum. But when she came out, she was like purple and she wasn't screaming.
Yes.
And on top of that, she had the cord twice around her neck.
Yeah.
And I think thinking back, like, because I still have that as such a strong vision in my head, and like Mackie thought that she was dead.
Yeah, he shared his thoughts on that in their dad's episode.
So he was quite, I think, traumatized by that. And I remember in the moment, it was like I knew that she was fine, but I think, and I don't know if it was the pregnancy that brought it up in me again, but I think I was so fearful of something then going wrong or that happening again. So I was very adamant that I didn't want to birth or give birth on my back, because that's what I did the first 2 times.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, I mean, I was active throughout Lulu's birth, but towards the end I was on my back. So I was very adamant that I wanted to be much more active and moving around and not give birth on my back. And I don't know if, even if I hadn't have birthed Lulu that way, if it would have changed things. But that was just something telling me in my brain, no, you need to try something different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, those past experiences have empowered you to, you know, make choices in what you wanted to do this time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, naturally with anything in life, you kind of learn from your it's not really a mistake, but you learn from your experiences. And it's nice that you kind of made conscious decisions and hopes and changes to change that, like, you know, trauma or those triggers from previous births. So, all right, let's go back to the day.
Yeah.
First of all, like, had you had breakfast by the time you went to this appointment? Like, were you in your head like, I'm gonna go for it today?
I knew it was going to happen today.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen.
So were you caffeinated? Were you?
I was very well caffeinated.
Like,
do you know did I have a good breakfast? That is such a question from you. Do you know what? I don't think I had that much for breakfast because I think I was like quite nervous.
Yeah.
I had coffee and I had I think Mackie made me like I had a smoothie. I think I had a smoothie and I had a coffee.
Very healthy, yeah.
And yeah, I was going in there being like, I think I'm going to meet my baby today. I'm going to meet our baby today. So I was in that headspace.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was also Mackie's birthday too. Yeah. So that was extra exciting.
Yeah. So you went up like flipping pancakes for him for his birthday.
You know what? I woke up and I was just like, I was so focused on going to the hospital that I was like, oh shit, happy birthday. We have celebrated his birthday. Yeah. So we got there and obviously first they just wanted to do a bit of a check and monitor the baby. And actually this was actually a little bit this really threw me off because it was two midwives who I hadn't met before and they were having trouble they were basically having trouble getting his heart rate because apparently he was moving around so much. Weirdly, I wasn't feeling that much movement. So I don't know what was going on, why this was happening, but this went on for about 10 minutes and they were moving the monitor on my stomach, and then one of them was asking me if I've ever had low blood pressure, which I haven't, and I started to get really, really agitated because automatically you've got a monitor on. They're not picking up like a regular heartbeat. You're thinking, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, I think it felt like, I know it was about 10 minutes. And after about 10 minutes, I actually said, like, is everything okay? And they're like, oh no, everything's fine. He's completely fine. He's just moving around so much that we can't get like an accurate reading. They're like, the baby's completely fine. I'm like, okay, you could have maybe like communicated that to me. So that kind of put me offside a little bit. And I was thinking, oh my God, like if this all happens and these are my midwives, I don't know how comfortable I'm going to be. But I was wrong because they ended up being absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad that they were. So that happened. Baby was happy. Then it was time to break my waters. So we sort of spoke about that. You did say you have had your waters broken.
Yeah. Weirdest feeling.
It's the weirdest feeling.
Have you before? Yeah.
I have, yeah. I've never had my waters break naturally.
Yes, yeah. Neither.
And, actually, like a lot of people's waters don't break. A lot of people's break like in the pushing phase.
That was like me with Ren.
Yeah.
They never broke. He came out in the sack.
In the sack.
Yeah. Well, it broke right at the end, not fully in the sack.
So that happened, and I said, can you just leave us for like a couple of hours? We'll see what happens. We'd set everything up, like set the room all up how we wanted it. After that had happened, and then I was getting like, again, a bit of cramping, but like nothing was getting more intense. I was like, oh, come on. And I don't think, like, I'm totally fine that it didn't, but at the time I was like just so had my head set on like that was going to happen,
Yeah.
So after about 2 hours he came back up and was like, what do you want to do? He's like, I feel like if I just give you like a little bit of Syntocin, like you probably will go into labour pretty quickly. So let's give that a go. So we did that, and very, very quickly I was into labour. Okay. Like my contractions came on pretty quickly.
So what's pretty quickly? Like within minutes or like?
They amped up quite a lot, I reckon, within half an hour. But when I say quickly, I got into established labour quite quickly.
Yeah, right.
So at this point, it was about 11:15, I think, in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I was kind of moving around. I was swinging my hips and I'm leaning over the bed and I'm like doing, like I'm squatting and I'm on all fours. I'm like, oh, this is so painful. And I remember Mackie being like, babe, like, I'm sure it is, but I think you're at the bottom of the hill. And I was like, oh, yeah, like it's going to get a bit more painful, like, because you forget.
Yeah.
Like you don't, but you forget.
Yeah.
And
you're like dancing around, like,
I had one of the birthing combs. Did you use one of them?
Yeah, no.
Really squeezing into that. And that was, I have to say, that was nice in the early stages of labour, like when the contractions when it was established, they were painful, but you had
manageable.
to go. Manageable.
Yeah. What about the TENS machine?
Yeah. So as they started to amp up, I used a TENS machine, which I loved. Like I hadn't used one before. Yeah. I found that really, really helpful.
Yeah.
I had it on like literally full pelt.
Yeah. Did you get like a bit addicted to it?
Yeah,
like every contraction, you're like, oh. Yeah.
So I had that, which I found really helpful. The only thing though, because I ended up having to have the Syntocin, then you have to be monitored the whole time.
Yeah.
They have to keep monitoring the baby. And because one thing, because I was moving so much, they kept losing, like the monitor kept not working. So that was one thing. They were okay. Like the midwife, she was amazing. She was happy to work with me on that because she knew that I wanted to move around a lot. But then the TENS machine, because I was moving around so much, the monitor wasn't working. And when my doctor came up to check, he said, we can do a monitor which goes on the baby's head, because he was already quite low.
Oh.
So that means you don't have to wear the belt with the monitor. And he just puts this really fine little thing up there, sticks on the baby's head.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they monitor it that way. So then you're free, basically.
Okay, cool.
The only issue with that was the TENS machine throws off that monitor.
So you had to let go
I had to
of
get rid of the TENS.
Oh.
So, and this was when it was really, really amping up. So I then, what did I do then? Use the gas.
Okay.
Yeah. The gas was good.
Yeah.
It's actually fun. The gas is good, but it definitely makes you feel a bit like...
Yeah, lightheaded.
A bit lightheaded. But I found, and it was the same with Lulu, I found the gas was really good kind of like right towards the end, when you're kind of towards the end of, stage one before you go into the pushing phase, because once you're ready for pushing, nothing's helping you.
Yeah, and you can't really, I imagine, like you can't really concentrate on, because what's the go with the gas? Like you have
you just suck on it.
You just suck on it.
And it's like a mouth, like a
you have it
tube.
like during, like through a contraction?
Yeah, because and it's more of a distraction.
Yes, okay, yeah.
During a contraction, yeah. About 11:15, I was in pretty established labour. And then at about 12:45, we checked and I was only about 5 centimetres dilated.
Okay.
But I was like, I was really feeling it by this point. And I remember when he said, look, well, he didn't say he said you're about 5 centimetres. I was like, oh my God, I've got so long to go. Like, this already feels too much. And I remember when he left, the midwife said to me, she's like, don't feel disheartened, because it's your third baby. Things can happen really, really quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, and I kind of just...
Were you disheartened? Were you nervous by that stage?
A little bit, because I thought I've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And for me, like it was already very much intense. Like it was very intense by this point. Anyway, he virtually left, and in 10 minutes I said to her, I was like, I feel like I need to push. Like there's so much pressure, I need to push. And I heard her being like, it's okay, like you're fine, like you're just getting into the net. I was like, no, I need to push. And then that whole feeling of like I felt overwhelmed, I was crying. I was like, it's too much, I can't do this. Like it's just...
Sure sign.
I don't want to do it. I can't do it. And then I was like, no, like I really need to push. And I could then hear her saying, I think we need to get a few extra towels and blankets and stuff. And I'm like, and my eyes were shut. Like, and I remember I was leaning over the bed and I heard her saying that. And I was like, maybe I am close. Maybe I am close. And then I heard her say, I think we need to call Tom, who was my obstetrician. I think we should get him back up here. And So it had been now probably about half an hour since I saw him. And then by the time he came back up, I had moved onto the bed, but I wasn't on my back. I was lying on my side at this point. It was kind of the only way I could get some sort of comfort in between contractions, but they were really like on top of each other, obviously. And
so intense.
it was just, I found this time the wild thing is I had no control over my body.
Yeah.
Like, this urge to push was just so intense, so much more intense than the first 2 times that I did it, that I physically could not control like that urge, what was happening, that urge to push. And I think Mackie and I did joke a lot about I'm going to breathe the baby out. And I actually kind of feel like I did end up breathing the baby out, which I know is the way to do it. None of this hard straining, but let's face it, when you're in the moment, it's pretty hard not to.
Well, like you say, you feel totally out of control.
So out of
it's
control.
Like whatever comes out of you is just happening.
So I looked, so the time, so I started pushing at, it was 1:30, and within 3 contractions he came out. So at 1:41 he was born. But I remember by the time the doctor came back up, he just walked in really calmly and I could hear him and he said, "Oh, yep, there it is." And I didn't even all I could feel was the pressure and that push. I didn't actually know that his head was already like well down there.
Yeah.
And again, it was just so different because with Nina, I was pushing for like an hour and a half, which when you're pushing is a long time.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really long time.
Yeah.
Lulu was about 40 minutes, but this little baby boy on the third the third big push, he essentially just came flying out.
Yeah, so did he come out in one contraction?
Come out in one contraction.
Not like head, then shoulders, then out, one contraction?
One big contraction.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was just, it was absolutely amazing. And that's what I wanted. Like I was really, I think when thinking about the birth that I wanted, I was so fixated, yes, on labour and all the tools and the ways and things that I can do to kind of help me feel as comfortable as possible, but just that end part, like the pushing part and actually getting him out and how I wanted that to be. And it was absolutely amazing, just like that relief.
Can you remember the physical feeling?
Oh my God, yeah, it's like, it's then like the release, just that release.
Yeah.
And then he was screaming and he was on my chest and it was just like, oh my God, I fucking did it. Like, and he's here and he's safe and he's crying and it was just it was amazing. And I think so in total it was like 2 and a bit hours that I was in labour for. So it did, that's still relatively quick. But I think, the midwife was saying to me, just, you just need to, let's try and slow down. Like, you don't want to go too fast. And I just physically couldn't stop my body. But I only had a really, really tiny tear, which is what they worry about when, if it is super quick, when people have like 45 minutes.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. So what, just like a 1 degree tear or something that they would say?
Like barely. Did
you have to get stitches?
I had a little stitch, but they did say that I could have probably had no stitch, but it just will heal quicker with the stitch.
That's amazing.
So
that's amazing considering that he came out in one contraction.
Yeah.
Because he just shot out and you didn't even tear. Wow, that's incredible.
It was pretty wild. Lucky. So look, I suppose apart from, yes, I really wanted to go into spontaneous labour, so that didn't happen, but the rest of it happened the way that I wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
And then once they're here, it's just, well, for me anyway, it all kind of goes out the window. But I have a really good feeling when I think about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Remembering moments from the labour and remembering like the way that Mackie and I kind of worked together and how he supported me throughout it and, kept me calm and kept me like focusing on my breath because, there were definitely periods where you go to start, I found anyway, like not hyperventilating, but, your breath starts to get really quick and that's the worst thing when you're in labour. That's what you don't want.
Yeah.
You need to stay calm.
Yeah. Did you try that?
As calm as possible.
Did you try that alternate nostril breathing that we learnt, the Nodi Shodhana?
I didn't actually do that during labour, no.
You forget all of those things. You're like,
I didn't
try
do
this,
that.
I'll do that.
I can share, not right now, but I can share a couple of the breathing exercises that I did follow.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So I'm going to ask another listener question because there's another one here relevant to like the different tools that you used. What was your couldn't have done it without thing or tool?
Couldn't have done it without, like, the labour?
Yeah, the birth. Like you talked about, you had the birth comb, the TENS machine, the gas. Like, was it the breathing? Like, what was the thing?
I think it's such, for me, it's such a like it's such a mental thing. I think it was definitely the breathing, like 100%.
Okay.
Because I mean, the comb and the TENS, like, they're great distractions.
Yeah.
We had this other amazing thing actually, which was came from the She Birth recommendation. It was called an orgasmatron.
Okay.
And it was like this head massager.
Oh,
It has like all
yeah.
these prongs and it like massages your head, or you can do it on your back. That was pretty epic. But we didn't end up using that a lot throughout the labour. We used that a lot in the lead up, and I was trying to like get relaxed, move my body and all that stuff. But that would have been really good in labour. I don't know why we didn't end up using that much.
Well, it's probably like one of those things that's good early on.
Yeah.
But once you're in, more of the intense contractions.
What was probably, I think it's a combination, but I think I think honestly the breathing. That's definitely what got me through. 100% the breathing.
And so then once he came out and you had him on your chest, what happened next?
I had him on my chest. What happened next?
I remember you told me that you lay there with him for ages.
Oh, ages, yeah. A couple of hours I didn't take him off my
nice.
chest. It was so nice, actually. He had a little feed within like maybe the first hour or something, which was amazing. Like they're just, it's so primal. Like it's just wild how they like almost crawl on you.
Yeah.
He definitely wasn't latching properly because my nipples got sore very quickly. But I was like, because he was on there for so long. It's
just such a precious, incredible moment.
It was so special. It was after, I think it was a good couple of hours where I actually turned to Mackie and I was like, I should probably give you a hold. Would you like to hold your son? And happy birthday.
Yeah. How do you ever live up to that gift?
I know. I was like, maybe next year I'll give you twins, babe. He was like, we are done. No. So he was just on my chest for ages, for hours, and then within a couple of hours I was able to get up, and that shower, oh my God.
Oh my God, I was just about to say, can we talk about the post-birth shower?
I made sure I had all my little things that I love for that first shower because there's no point having it all in the car. That's when you want to, really get refreshed. So I had all my nice like face creams and oils and bits and pieces and washes, and tell you what was amazing, the perineum spray bottle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, lots of brands do it, but I had the Bare Mum
one,
one to help with the whole situation down below.
Yeah, okay. And I think I remember you telling me you used it straight away. You used it and it was really helpful straight away,
But then, this was the only thing. I couldn't it took me quite a while to go to the toilet to have a wee.
Okay, were you nervous?
I was nervous because they're like, we need you to do a wee so you can go out of this area that I was in.
You've got to do that before you move on to the next.
Had to have a wee,
I don't remember having to do that.
I don't know why. Anyway, that was really random. Don't know why I shared that. But,
no,
so I was sculling, which was good because I was so thirsty afterwards anyway. So I was having like some electrolytes and stuff to keep me, give me energy, but also to try and help me go to the toilet, which it did work. Actually, I should say, one other really great thing throughout my birth was I had this drink bottle that had like a bendy straw.
Oh, yeah.
Which was so good because I could literally just, like Mackie could put it in my mouth, but also it kind of helped down-regulate your breathing again.
Okay.
So that was
again,
good.
just like something to focus on, something to
focus
distract
on.
a bit.
But I had that, and I also had another drink bottle that had like electrolytes in, which I was going between the two throughout. I was saying the whole 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Oh, it would have felt, it feels like a fucking lifetime. Doesn't matter how quick it was. Or did it? Did it feel long at the time?
It felt long at the time, yeah. And then, had the nice shower, put on my disposable nappy, my underwear.
God, postpartum glammed up.
I think I've got a picture of that actually. All glammed up, but I did feel nice and fresh. And then So that was good. So I was able to get up, walk around.
And what about your placenta? Because I remember you sent me a photo and it looked so fucking healthy and amazing.
Yeah. So actually, so back to when I was still lying in bed and had a little baby Otis on my chest, after I birthed the placenta, I asked them obviously to bring it back so I could have a little look. And the midwife kind of explained it all to me and told me all about it. And I did bring it home.
Oh, did you?
I brought it home and we were going to bury it, but then this is so funny. I literally forgot about it in the fridge.
Oh my God, gross.
Well, it was fine. It was in a completely sealed thing.
Okay.
But we had it in like this little, looked like a little, like one of those big, large Greek yogurt tubs. I was like, what is that? I was like, far out, it's the placenta.
Oh my God.
But yeah, do you know what?
So it went off in the fridge.
After I don't know how you felt, but so after he was born, and then obviously the placenta still has to come out, the contractions that came back was so intense. Like they were hectically painful.
It just seems cruel, doesn't it? After you finally push the
God.
baby out, it's like
The funny thing is my obstetrician actually said to me when he was giving me that little stitch, "Oh, do you want some local anaesthetic?" And I'm thinking, local anaesthetic, like after what I've just gone through, I was like, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like after just pushing the baby out and going through labour.
Yeah.
I was like, no, just get it done. And so.
Do you know what's funny? When I was having my stitches after birthing Ren, I was really nervous about anything else happening down there. Like it just felt so tender. And like you, he came out in one contraction, but it was like very full on and I had quite a tear. And so I was really nervous about it. So they did give me a little local anaesthetic. And then, but when they were about to give me the needle for the anaesthetic, I was like, can I please have some gas or something? And the midwife was like, really? Like, and she was like, you just gave birth with absolutely no pain relief. Like you want, and I was like, I just the thought of anything else down there, I can't even handle the needle. And she's like, okay. So I had the gas while I was having birth.
That's so funny. Well, you forget, like, you just forget you don't forget what you've just done, but like, it's pretty wild what we're capable of.
Oh, it's just.
But, actually it is very different because giving birth is like something natural that our body is doing, whereas having stitches is
exactly.
So,
exactly.
But I think I felt quite numb down there, hence why I was like, nah, don't worry about that. But, and again, I only had such a tiny little tear. But, so those pains, like when the contractions came back, you're like, oh my God, but he's here. Like, surely that's going to stop. I forgot. But
and then did you continue to have those like postpartum uterus contractions a lot?
Yeah, for a few days.
Yeah, for a few days. And were they really painful?
They were pretty painful.
Yeah,
they were
more so than your last
than
one?
the last ones. Yeah, I think they get slightly more painful with each baby.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. And I definitely had that experience the second time around. I actually don't even remember them being painful the first time around, but the second time I was like, what is this?
Yeah. And when you feed,
painful.
it happens when you feed.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that was really painful. But I have to say, like, I feel like my recovery this time, I feel like everything just healed and recovered probably a bit quicker down below. Like I bled for less amount of time.
That was another listener question, so let's go into that a little bit more. How has your recovery been this time? Does it feel different after having given birth before?
That's a good question. It's actually really funny because I feel like, I know we're talking about postpartum, but I just want to go back to pregnancy for a sec. So my body, everything happened so much quicker this time, and I really felt like everything changed down below a lot towards the end of pregnancy, but more so than what it had before. But I think, your body's so smart. It kind of knows, you've done it once, you've done it twice. This is the third time. I know what to do. Your body kind of knows what to do. So after giving birth for the third time, as much as I feel like he came out a lot easier, which he did, my recovery seemed to be a lot better, seemed to be a lot quicker. As I said, I didn't bleed for as long. It was very uncomfortable and still quite painful for a few days, but it was a couple of weeks rather than, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, right. And how do you feel now? You're 6 weeks in now? 7?
Yeah. I feel.
How do you feel physically down there?
Down there, I feel
down there. Like, what are we talking about? Your vagina,
my vagina.
Your,
I feel
uterus,
pretty,
your pelvic floor, all of it. What does it feel like?
I feel pretty healed down there, but I do feel like I need to do a bit of work on my pelvic floor, and my stomach muscles are starting to feel a little bit weak.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'll get to that at some point.
Yeah. Look, no rush, babe.
No rush, babe. I think my recovery's been quite good. I did have a friend that had said to me, our friend Tamara, who is a Pilates teacher, she'd said, particularly this time, make sure you lie down just as much as possible in those first few days.
Yes.
Which I was able to do. So with the hospital that I went to, we got to stay for 4 days.
Yeah.
So that just gave me that sort of time to rest and not be running around after the other kids and stuff. So that was really, really good.
Yeah. So I've got another question here, another listener question. This is quite a good one. They've asked anything regarding challenges of postpartum and how to know what's normal. That's a good question, isn't it?
It's very hard, I think, because it's so different for every person. Every baby's different. And I think my postpartum has been different probably every time.
Yeah.
Did you feel that? It's different both times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
I reckon the feeding this time has probably come a lot more, has been a lot better, like in terms of the breastfeeding than with my first two. He's been a better feeder. He's a lot hungrier, but I think, being a boy, that tends to be what a lot of people say. And I think maybe because I did have issues maybe with feeding Lulu, but I had a really good experience with Nina, maybe I went into it with a really kind of open mind with no expectation on how I was going to feed him, what was going to happen. I think maybe that made me more relaxed a little bit.
Yeah. And you're just more confident, right? Just within yourself.
Just feel more confident. That's the thing. And we have had a few things like, Otis has been unwell. We ended up having a little trip to the hospital. He had bronchiolitis. So he was unwell for a good sort of 2 weeks. And that was really stressful and really hard, because then that actually did then affect the feeding and sleep is all over the place when you've got a newborn anyway, but it did kind of throw everything out. But I think because it wasn't my first time, I still could be a little bit relaxed. Do you know what I mean? Like not stress myself out or not be too worried as such.
It's amazing the different things that you think about and the things that go through your head from your first child and your first
the things that you worry
about
compared
to afterwards. The things that you worry about. Even just the thought process, like you just don't worry about the same sort of things, do you?
Nah. And I think knowing that it's the third time, I have been able to relax into certain things a little bit more, because I know that there'll be an end at each stage. I'll keep telling myself that. Yeah. What else? Postpartum, the recovery is quicker. I suppose another thing is knowing that how important it is to have like good support around you with your postpartum, because it's so unpredictable. You're exhausted. Even if you do or don't have other kids, like it's really, really hard. It takes such a massive toll on you, like physically, mentally. You don't want to be spending time having to worry about like, I don't know, like just, your meals and all that type of stuff. Like, yes, doing that prep beforehand is important if you can do it, or having like amazing friends like I did with Soph dropping me over lovely meals, or, family members and stuff. Like you need to have a good support around you.
Yeah, just to help you get through the days.
Because that really sleepy newborn phase, it really lasts for like a good 2 weeks. And then, it's a lot more.
It's chaos.
It's absolute chaos. So trying to juggle, different kids and babies and everything, life.
And I think with the question about how
and just
to
so you can have a rest as well.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah, so you can have a rest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with the question about like what's normal, I think it's like really important to know that there is no normal, or whatever your situation is, whether it seems to be really smooth or whether it seems to be really rocky, whether it seems to be, easy or hard, that's just your normal. And you shouldn't compare to the next person because their normal is just a totally different situation.
And no one knows your baby better than you. That's like, it's so true. Like that, I mean, I can go to Soph, well, what did you do in this situation? And you know, it is good to ask friends, you know, for advice and try different things, but probably what worked for Soph wouldn't necessarily work for me. It might.
Totally.
So yeah, there is kind of no normal.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if ever in doubt, like, just go get checked out.
Yes.
If you're ever worried about your baby or you think something's not right in terms of the baby, like literally just go and get it checked out. You would much rather do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if there's nothing wrong and you were being a bit overcautious, like, so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no point in sitting there worrying. Just go and get them checked.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to put someone out.
No.
Like, you're never going to, you know, even if they end up being totally fine and well, that's absolutely the best outcome.
Yeah.
But there's no you should never worry about going to get them checked, which I think as a new mum, particularly with your first, you're a bit like, oh, I don't know, maybe they're fine. I shouldn't bother anyone but no. And like a lot of doctors will tell you that.
Yeah, totally.
You know, you did the right thing, even if they're fine.
Well, that's why when he was unwell the other week, I just knew, like, my gut was telling me, because he'd been a bit unsettled for a couple of days, but that particular night it was telling me, like, I really feel like I need to go and get him checked out. I really need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously, yes, he had a fever, which you worry about in a newborn. Like, that needs to be checked out. But I just knew that I had to go and get checked out. And I actually remember saying to the doctor afterwards, I was like, oh, good, okay, so I wasn't being paranoid, or I wasn't, like, thinking it was worse in my head. She's like, no, you did the right thing by coming.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what you should do.
Yeah.
No one knows your baby better than you. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, good. That 5 a.m. trip back from we were away for the weekend back to Melbourne was totally worth it.
Yeah. For peace of mind. Because if you worry yourself, that's when, you know, and you're sleep deprived, that's when, you know, really like triggering thoughts and things happen.
Yeah.
You literally start to go a bit crazy and like paranoid and delirious when you haven't slept, and you're very hormonal and emotional. And if you're worried about your baby at the same time, like your thoughts can spiral pretty quickly. So you just got to do whatever you can to keep your
and you go to really bad thoughts very, very quickly.
So
like,
quickly.
Oh my God, what if they stop breathing? Like, what would I do?
Yeah.
What if, like, just every little thing, like, why has he got a fever? Oh my God, what if that peaks? What if they have a seizure? Like, touch wood, all these things like you go around in your brain. Like,
and you just feel so responsible for them.
Yeah, and you are. Like, you are responsible for them.
Yeah, they're so dependent on you.
So, yeah, I think nothing's not normal.
Yeah.
What's normal for my baby wouldn't be normal for your baby.
Yeah. And as a third-time mum, what's your approach and what are your thoughts on feeding this time around?
So I'm mixed feeding Otis, which I did with both. Well, yeah, I did with Nina, and then Lulu. She was bottle fed from about 2 months, but she had other things going on. I think we've spoken about her before on the podcast, which is working really, really well. I think he is feeding quite well. Well, he was prior to being sick, but he's getting back to feeding really well again. And it's just good to be able to give him the bottle to top him up because he's hungry. And it also kind of allows me to be able to have that flexibility to do stuff with my other kids as well.
And share the feeding with
with Mackie and, you know, like grandparents or whoever. Me. So so that is really nice, I think. That works well for us.
Yeah. And it's nice to have that perspective on your past experiences, isn't it? And just be like, this is what we're doing. Yeah. This is what works for us, and this is what I'm confident with.
And it's so funny. Two things that people ask you, and I just find it so funny, is he a good baby? Fuck, all babies are good babies. Like, I find that such a funny question, and so many people ask it.
Yeah, okay.
No, like, what are you going to say?
Yeah,
like,
no, he's shit.
Yeah, like, is he a good baby? Usually people obviously always love to ask about sleep, but whatever. Is he a good baby? And, you know, or someone will say, like, it's different when a friend asks, but is he feeding well? And what someone really means is, are you breastfeeding? And I find it so funny. People just ask these questions. All probably well-intended. Yeah. But I just, no, he's a bad baby. What are you going to say to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, if you asked me yesterday after he slept well, he's a great baby. If you ask me today after I haven't slept more than 2 hours, like, he's a bad baby. I know, it is funny. It's also like the way things, like, I think people are well-meaning with their questions, but it's also like the way, depending on your mood and how things are going in that moment too, it's the way it's interpreted too.
Someone asked me once, are you feeding your baby? That was with Nina. I'm like,
no.
Yes, no.
I'm
what are you
starving them.
You mean, am I breastfeeding?
Yeah, right.
But no, yeah, that works really well for us. And actually it was so good too when he was sick because he was struggling. He was so congested he couldn't breastfeed properly. So it was to be able to give him the bottle as well was really good.
Yeah, got to do what you got to do.
And right now he's probably having a bottle while I'm recording this.
Yeah, exactly. And allows you time to do things.
Feeling quite full actually.
Yeah.
I'm talking about him.
All right, well, we won't keep going on too long. I've just got 2 more questions to ask you. One of them is like, what if there is one, what's your most sort of proud moment that sticks out from the labour, from the birth?
I think the moment when him coming out in that one big contraction and being born, and then that realisation that he was sharing the birthday with his dad, I think is pretty special, I think. Yeah.
That's so cool. They'll share their birthdays for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, amazing.
And then what was the biggest challenge that stands out?
I think just getting, when we were talking about that part in the labour, when you're sort of transitioning and you have that kind of freak out of I can't do this, and it's like that moment, but because you can completely lose like your focus in that moment and everything sort of starts to spiral and everything sort of changes. I think the biggest challenge was not letting that completely throw me off for that final part of the birth, like, being able to just kind of try and stay as focused as possible to then achieve what I wanted to achieve and keep calm. So probably that, I think.
Well, you did an amazing job. I'm so proud of you.
And also trying to like naturally induce my labour every day. That was pretty challenging because it didn't work, didn't happen.
More mentally challenging.
Yeah. But I hope I answered all those questions properly.
Yeah. Now let me just see if there's any other listener questions that we haven't answered. Was it as quick as they say it can be by the 3rd? You mentioned that when we started the conversation a little bit, how you were nervous about how quick it would be.
Yeah.
But was it as quick as...
I think it was actually quicker than what I thought it would be in a way. Like, yes, it was quick for me. It was quicker than my other 2 births. So they got quicker each time. I think I had a 10-hour, 4-hour, 2 and a bit hours. So, but, some people give birth literally in like 10 minutes. So that's quick.
My God.
But I feel like 2 and a bit hours, that was a good amount of time.
Perfect. Bloody perfect amount of time.
Not too quick, not too fast.
You just got that shit done.
Yes.
Well done. So proud of you. One last question, which I think you sort of have answered, but it's quite nice to finish off with, was it as you hoped?
It was totally as I hoped. Yeah.
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 That's amazing.
It was.
You should feel really proud of yourself. It's such an incredible achievement to give birth. And in any way or form that it happens for anyone, it's an incredible achievement. But the fact that you were able to do it in the way that you had hoped is absolutely amazing. And I'm really happy that you got that experience. And
Thanks,
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for sharing everything with us today.
Oh, I think I just still can't. You think back and I'm just like, oh, my God, I can't believe I just did that a few weeks ago. And I can't believe it's the end of a chapter for me, giving birth, but
Fast forward like 2 years from now, we'll be having the same episode with number 4.
No way, Jose. I am done and dusted. I'm sending Mackie off to Dr. Snip and no, just kidding.
I love it. All right, let's wrap this up. Well done, darling. Love you lots.
Darling. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.